if we look at the traveling in the desert, so God would tell us when to travel and where to travel. Really, God initiated our traveling. But there's another type of journey that we must make, a journey that we initiate. And this concept of God initiating our journey and us initiating our own journey point at the idea that we talk about spiritually, that there are two tracks to divine service. One where we are empowered from above, and the other where we initiate from below. And it's these two channels, these two types of energy that we have to work with, which give us the whole encompass all of our avodah. Why is it important to appreciate these two? Because this is exactly what going out of Egypt is all about. God originally took us out of Egypt. He initiated. He came from above. We were not even worthy, and we certainly were not ready. And he showed us great miracles. And he took us out of Egypt, and it was all him, the great love that he showed us. But then afterwards he said, okay, now it's your turn. Let's see what you're made of. We can appreciate this concept of being taken out of Egypt, but then it's our job to now follow up and work hard to spiritually climb. Very nice mashal with a child and a father, and of course, learning how to ride a bicycle. Take a young child, 5 or 6 years old. So what does the father want? Let's say with my son, I want him to ride a bike, but he's not ready to ride a bike yet. So if I sit and wait until he's ready to ride a bike all on his own, I'll be waiting forever. It's till he can pick up a bike and get on a ride. He needs to become acquainted with riding a bike. So what do? I have a very nice plan. I take a bike and I put him on the bike and I hold him and the bike. And of course, hopefully I don't fall, because if I fall, he falls. But I take him and I'm doing everything for him. And he's like all excited, and smiling. I have some video of it. Maybe afterwards I'll show it to you. And we're going, and I'm tripping and almost tripping, and he's excited. He's riding the bike, and I don't even know if he's like, when they're really young, they don't even know how to even use the pedals yet. So it's like, wow, great. When they're little old, they use the pedals. Now, who's riding that bike? My son isn't. I'm the one doing it for him. But you know what? It's once he gets used to being on the bike and he gets comfortable moving on the bike, so at some point he also gets involved in riding the bike. So a little bit further along in the training, he's getting ready for the Bike Olympics, the pre-adolescent, whatever, the pre-bar mitzvah Bike Olympics. So at some point, I'm pushing him along with the bike, and he's pedaling, and he's excited, and I let go for a few seconds, but I don't want him to fall, so I let go, but only I know I let go, and I'm still running with him, and actually I should teach my next, hopefully God will send me another son. I'll teach him how to ride a bike, because I can use the exercise, to be honest with you. It was good exercise back then. Anyway, he starts riding the bike himself, and he's doing it. So now I know he could do it. He doesn't know yet. So obviously I let him go, and he's riding. And as soon as he realizes he's riding, he looks back and gets nervous and falls. But, he gets back up, and we do it again, and before you know it, he's able to ride, but he can't pick up the bike and ride on his own. So can he really ride? Yes, no, maybe so. He can only ride if I put him on the bike and I get him started, and once we're going, I let go and he can ride. That's what we're talking about. That's what God did for us in Egypt. He took us out of Egypt because we would never been able to get out on our own. We could not start this on our own. It was too hard. But once we're rolling, then we can continue. And that's the idea of God empowering us from above. But at some point, you're ready for your child to get on the bike on his own. So he has to now pick up the bike and start on his own and ride. And he will eventually do that. But what got him to that point where he can ride on his own? Of course, if I didn't start with him in the beginning, he would never be able to pick up the bike and ride on his own. Obviously, until he's much, much older. So even when he picks up the bike and rides on his own, it's also because I helped him. And that's what we have to understand. Now that God hides himself from us in a time of exile, and it's like he's not there, and we have to pick up the bike ourselves, and we have to get on and climb, and it's hard, and we're fortunately lazy. At least I'm lazy sometimes. it's not really my fault. I have bad metabolism, but basically, it's tough. There are days we don't want to get up, and there's no voice from Hashem. My son, Yitzchak, I love you so much. Now get up! No, we don't have that. We have to push ourselves. But even that pushing of ourselves, it's borrowing off of the original help we got in the beginning. So we're always dependent on Hashem for what we do, but God specifically wants to see what we're made of. We have to get up on our own and we have to fight forward. And the accomplishments that we ultimately make in this time of exile, when God is not here, not revealed, we don't see miracles, that is the true accomplishment. That becomes our own accomplishment as much as we can accomplish on our own. And that's what ultimately will bring the Mashiach. It's the darkest right before the dawn. And we are in that period of time right now. We are in the darkest part of the night, and it's when the truth comes out. Because in this period of time, in America, there's so many bright lights, but it's so dark. It's so dark in America, so much garbage. Excuse me, I don't want to insult all you Americans. I'm also American. There's so much negativity. It's so easy to give up. It's so easy, like that guy had said in that movie, The Matrix, it's so easy to just have a steak and relax and enjoy. Actually, these days you can go to an all-you-can-eat steakhouse and just never stop eating the steak. And it's funny, with the freedom we have in America, that's the ultimate test, because if everyone has the freedom to give up on religion, on spirituality, and it's specifically now with all that freedom that people are not willing to let go. Did you ever see a people that the children are more traditional than the grandparents? That's what we see today. Because the soul doesn't die. The soul will not die. It might fall asleep. It might become even, unfortunately, there are people out there that are like spiritually crippled, but they never die. And we're seeing now, one by one, people are waking up, people are coming back to the religion, and we're coming on. This is the darkest moment right before the dawn. And this is also part of the idea. The idea of doing tshuva is also, where do you think a person all of a sudden, snap, can do tshuva? The idea of doing tshuva, of waking up to a reality that you've been asleep to all your life, is something that's really beyond you. Now, when we say that a person is trapped in Egypt, so that's true, but not completely. There's an aspect within a person, there's the essence of every Jew. We're talking about the essence of his soul. It's called the chelek elokah, a part of the divine. That aspect of a person never gets trapped in Egypt. That part of a person is always free. The Baal Shem Tov says a beautiful idea. He says that, based on a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, every day there's a heavenly voice that calls out to us to wake us up, to bring us back on the right path. Anybody here heard it? If anyone says yes, I'm going to be worried. But anybody heard it? Did I ever tell you one time I was late at night, I was out on the street, and I saw a bright light. I thought it was a sign from heaven. It was a police guy flashing his light bulb saying, "Hey, you, wake up!" Just kidding. That essence of our soul, that's part of us, is always awake. And that's what brings the person back to tshuva. In many cases, it's that part of his soul that wakes him up. And that part never goes to sleep. The essence of the soul within. So it's only externally that we become, alienated from Judaism. But inside, our neshama can never be separated from Hashem. And that's the secret to the idea of doing tshuva, which we see today. I like to compare it to, if you imagine one of these fancy highways, you have 7, 8, 9, 10 lanes of cars just flying in one direction. If we were driving, would you decide to take your car, stop it, and turn it around and go the other way with thousands of cars all going in one direction? Anybody would do such a thing? So then let me ask you, how did you get here? How did you get here? We were all racing somewhere else. None of us 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago were racing to the Beis Medrash, the synagogue. None of us were racing to the bookstore to buy the newest Jewish book on prayer or on the Megillah. No, we were racing everywhere else. So how did we get here? Somehow we did an about face. And where did the power, where did the energy come from that to get to that about face? So that's beyond us. Because again, a child is not more traditional than his grandparents. That's from the etzem neshama, the essence of our being inside. God wakes us up. The pasuk says, I am asleep, but although I'm asleep, my heart is still awake. In the heart of hearts of a person, we're awake, and it's from there that we can be brought back. And that's really where we get all of our koach to continue in these dark, dark times. The greatest rabbis that ever lived, the earlier generations, in the Zohar, I think Rabbi Shimon even, they looked at our generation and said, we don't want to be there. In such a time of darkness, corruption, we don't want to be in the end of days. But look who was chosen to be here in the end of days. They're filling up the yeshivas. We're all coming from, it's kibbutz galuyot mamish. It's the return of the exiles. We're coming from all over the place, and we're filling up the yeshivas. People that grew up on everything but Torah. And we're here. That's what it means that every person must see himself as if he went out of Egypt. Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to wake up from this false reality in front of us and turn to the truth.